Welcome, everyone. I'm Juniper. I'm the managing producer for Feldenkrais Access, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today for the first class of Changing Habits of Chronic Pain with Raz Ori. We're also joined today by Anastasi Siotis, who is a Feldenkrais trainer candidate joining us from Manhattan. If you have any questions throughout the course of the lesson today, you can direct them to Anastasi either by writing him directly in the chat if you're in Zoom, or to everyone in the chat if you're in Zoom, or if you're joining from Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, just through the comments section of one of those platforms, whatever platform you're joining us from. And if you're joining us later from the recording, please also write in to whichever platform you're on there, because those questions are monitored and we really do want to help. So please don't hesitate to write in a question anytime you have one. And we are also joined today by Nadia Genois. Nadia is a Feldenkrais practitioner joining us from Montreal. And Nadia will be doing the lesson in a chair today. So if you need to modify the instructions for whatever reason into a sitting position, you can see how Nadia is engaging with the instructions. I will be spotlighting her periodically throughout the course of the lesson, and please don't hesitate to let me know if you need to see her more often. I'll be alternating between showing Nadia and our volunteers who are Feldenkrais practitioners doing the lesson as instructed along with you. So you'll see how they're engaging with the instructions as a general visual guide. And if you are in Zoom and you have your camera turned on, if you could please have it positioned in such a way that Raz and Anastasi can see you. It really helps Raz as he moves through the lesson, and it helps Anastasi in case you have a question. And one announcement, which is that the early bird discount ends on Monday for 20% off, or sorry, $20 off. So please don't hesitate to take advantage of that. Please go ahead and do that by Monday if you haven't yet registered. And also, please contact us about our scholarship program if you're interested in that. And that is it from me. Hand you over to Ross.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first class in this new series on changing habits of chronic pain. My name is Raz Ori from Tel Aviv. This class series is based on the work of Dr. Feldenkrais, so we will be doing variations of Feldenkrais movement lessons. The class series is also based on my own challenges and overcoming chronic pain that I had to deal with. Also based on what we know about how the brain processes pain and creates the perception of pain, and also in my experience as a Feldenkrais practitioner, helping many people to try to overcome the challenges of living with chronic pain. So we're going to try to go into the most organic patterns of how our brain reacts to pain. So what happens when we feel pain? Our breathing becomes disrupted. We feel a need to guard and protect ourselves from the danger of the pain, and that affects how we hold our body composure, trying to move away from the environment so as to protect ourselves. So in a way, we get drawn into ourselves, trying to move away from the external world. That also affects how we use our eyes and our visual system from being attentive to the pain that we're experiencing, again, as part of the protective guarding mechanisms. Another interesting thing is that prolonged pain, and even pain that is not very prolonged, but pain that doesn't go away immediately within a few minutes, even pain that you have to deal with for a few days, it also changes how the brain maps our body. The representation of our body parts in our brain become affected by the pain. And over a prolonged period of time, those representations even become distorted. If you put those things together with the psychological aspects of feeling pain, and these mechanisms of yourself away, withdrawing yourself away from the external environment in order to guard yourself, and the disturbed breathing, so you cannot breathe freely because you don't feel safe, and the body composure and the tightening that happens around the affected areas and overall throughout the body, and the distortions of how your brain then creates these representations of your body, you find yourself in a loop that is very hard to come out of. The interesting thing about the brain, though, is that it can always change. Once we know what are the building blocks that our brain uses to create perception, and what are the foundations that our brain uses to give meaning and value, even when it's a negative one, such as in situations of pain. But once we know how the brain does that or what it uses, we can actually try to manipulate to some extent how the brain works with these different aspects. So, for example, one of the aspects that we can work with is this effect of tightening, the guarding reflexes, the withdrawing away from the environment reflexes that happen during acute, sharp pain, but that remain in constant activation also during prolonged pain. So, this withdrawing from the environment and pulling yourself in is a movement pattern that, if practiced attentively with new significance and meaning, it can actually shift how your brain creates the perception of your body and your body maps. So, what we're going to use is these types of movements in which there isn't actually a lot of movement. And I'll explain to you. So if you just hold, for example, your hands in front of you, the palms of your hands facing each other, and imagine that there is a stiff ball, a very inflated, stiff ball between your hands, and you try to compress the ball. But the ball is not a spongy ball, so it's not going to get compressed. It's very inflated. But you try to hold the ball tight and you try to compress the ball. Your hands are not moving in space because the ball is not deflating. But can you feel that it does some muscular activation in your arms, in your shoulders, in your chest? So, this sort of tightening or tonifying of the muscles, one would call it isometric contraction, in which the muscles contract, but there is no movement. That is the tool that we will use today, combined with noticing how our breathing is reacting to these sort of tightenings, how our eyes are responding, because again, our eyes and our visual system are one of the dominant systems that react to pain and internalize pain, and to the body image, how this tightening can be used, this tonification can be used to actually enhance your sensation of where your body is. Okay, so the lesson is going to be done lying on the floor. Part of the lesson will be on your back, part of the lesson will be on your side. If you know that you need some cushioning for your head, especially when you're on your side, please do have some cushions ready. If you need a little bit of a support for your head when you're on your back, you can also use support for your head. When we're on the side, some would benefit from also having a cushion between the knees to facilitate the position itself and just to be more comfortable, more convenient within the situation. So you can grab some cushions that you have at your home to have them within your hand's reach before you lie down. And then when you feel ready, you're invited to come and lie down on the floor. Good. And just take a moment, organize your legs in a comfortable position, organize your arms in a comfortable position. And for just a moment, we're going to do a body scan in which you're just going to pay attention to the sensation of where your body is as a means to already enhance your body image and a means to try to tap into how your brain maps the different body parts and for you to just have an overall image of your general comfort, your general sense of ease when lying on your back. And of course, at whatever time, if you feel a need to have your feet standing, if you're more comfortable with your feet standing on the floor and your knees bent, you can always feel free to bend your knees. And for a moment, start from the lower tip of yourself, feeling your feet, the sensation in the soles of your feet, the orientation of each foot, the sensation in your ankles, how much muscular tone do you feel around the ankles and in your lower legs, around your knees, the sensation in your thighs, and your pelvis. How do you sense the position of your pelvis? Is the contact of the back of your pelvis with the floor, is it spread out throughout the whole width of your pelvis, or is it more focalized in a specific point? Notice the sensation in your lower back, your lower ribs, the vertebrae of your spine. If you trace them from the base of your pelvis up through the length of your back, the spine between your shoulder blades, notice the contact of the shoulder blades themselves with the floor and the weight of one shoulder, the weight of the other shoulder. And already notice an interesting thing. Are your eyes somehow moving with the shifting of your attention? Notice your right arm, your right hand, the fingers of your right hand, your left arm, left hand, fingers of your left hand. Good. Excellent. And then now just notice the movement of your breathing without trying to manipulate the way that you breathe. We're going to do a lot of breathing manipulations during the lesson. But for now, just observe the spontaneity of your breathing. Is it shallow or deep? The rhythm, the speed of your breathing? Is it relatively slow and calm? Do you feel the movement of the expansion of your lungs and the deflation of your lungs in your abdomen or in your chest? Excellent. Good. Now, make sure that your arms are, as they're laying on the floor, they're not very close to your body. They're a little bit away from your body. So there's a little bit of a space between your arms and your chest, and your elbows and your chest. And keep your elbows on the floor, but lift both hands forward towards the ceiling. Your elbows are on the floor. Both hands are forward towards the ceiling, and orient your palms one towards the other. So the palm of the right hand and the left hand are facing each other. That's right. And feel how to position, of course, your hands and your forearms and your arms. And just think for a moment that your arms and your hands are like a frame around your torso. Your chest, your abdomen, your back are within this open frame. It's not a closed frame, obviously, but it's more like an open frame, and your trunk is somewhere inside that frame. And now just keep listening to the movement of the inhalation and the exhalation, the expansion and the deflation, the shrinking. And try to feel if you can locate the movement. Where is it happening in your chest and in your abdomen? Also in relationship to your arms and hands. Almost like your hands are trying to look and see, they're observing where is it that you're breathing into? Where is that movement happening in your body? Almost like you have an eye on each palm, or you're monitoring your own breathing, somehow using your hands also as a reference, as a measuring frame. Excellent. Good. Now, very gently, think of compressing both hands a little bit towards each other. Again, your hands are not going to be moving in space, but you will just tonify a little bit the muscles in your arms as if there's something between your hands that you're trying to compress, or you're trying to hold it tightly. Very, very gently, though, not using a lot of force. That's right. And then you gently release that tonification, that contraction of the muscles. And you go about that back and forth very gently, trying to hold that imaginary object between your hands a little tighter, and then you release. Good. And as you do that contraction, also think about your forearms and your elbows, as if your forearms and elbows, you're holding them tighter in relationship to your chest, as if there is something also between your elbow and your chest that you need to hold onto tightly, not very tightly, gently, tightly. And then again, you slowly release that gentle tightening. And even think about your armpits, as if your arms in relationship to your chest are trying to hold that space, trying to compress a little bit that space between your arms and your chest. Excellent. And notice what else tightens as you think about this tightening. Where else in your body are you tightening? And you want to feel that tightening. You want to tighten intentionally in your chest, perhaps, in your shoulders, maybe in your abdomen. Excellent. Good. And bring your arms down, back down on the floor. Let them rest. And again, you can feel free to have your feet standing whenever you want. And now just think about your left arm and even turn your head a tiny bit to the left so that your eyes and your gaze are a little bit oriented to the left. And think that between the length of your left arm and your trunk, there is something, a material, substance, or a big cushion that you want to hold on a little bit more tightly, as if you're pulling the entire length of your arm from the shoulder to the tips of your fingers towards your body, but you're not moving the arm because it's just for creating that tonification, that tension. Mhm. Good. Now, think if you were to really hold something tightly to your chest, you would also tighten your chest. So every time you tonify and do this imaginary pulling, tightening of the arm towards the chest, also tighten your chest a little bit. Feel that the muscles in the left side of your trunk become activated in your between the ribs, in the chest, in your lower back, maybe, in the left side of your abdomen. That's right. And allow your eyes and your gaze to get drawn towards the center of that tightening. It's as if you're pulling your arm and the chest tightens. Where is the center of that pulling in? And what happens to your breathing when you tighten and when you release? Mhm. So, can you make sure that as you shrink, this tightening makes you smaller? It makes you more condensed. Can you make sure that your lungs also become smaller so that you exhale as you tighten, slowly exhaling as you tighten and drawing your eyes towards the center of that tightening? And then you slowly release and you allow yourself to breathe freely. And then you try again, gently tightening, pulling the arm towards the body, allowing your eyes and your inner gaze to get pulled towards that area of tightening, including the chest and your abdomen and a little bit in your back. Find all those different areas where can you feel the tightening more clearly so that this action of tightening becomes more efficient, more modulated, more in your control. But as you do it, let the tightening shrink your lung so that you exhale. That's right. Excellent. Good. And next time, bring your head back to the middle and try to do a similar thing on the right side, which might be, for some people, very, very different. So some people would find that, oh, this tightening of the arm towards the chest, I can actually do it much easier on one side than on the other. So first have your head turned a little bit to the right. Think about your eyes and your gaze oriented, recruited in your attention towards this tightening of the right side. And then notice if you decrease the effort, you make it even a gentler type of tightening, that you can exhale slowly as you tighten, and everything becomes almost more centered somewhere in the chest and the arm, and the exhalation becomes centered towards that area. And then again, you slowly release. And an interesting thing, again, what would happen? What is the reflex response to pain, one of the reflex responses to pain would be a tightening and even a holding of the breath. So next time, when you tighten very gradually, slowly, giving yourself time to feel how all the different parts in your arm, shoulder, armpit, front part of the chest, back of the chest, side of the chest, with the breathing, with the exhalation, everything comes together with your eyes, with your gaze, and maybe it comes together to this point where you can actually hold your breath for just a second or a two, but in this nicely organized, concentrated way. And then, of course, you breathe freely and you release the tightening. And then again, you try to tighten slowly. You try to tighten slowly the arm and the chest and the side of the back and the abdomen with your eyes, with that exhalation, almost like bringing everything into like one focal point, but an inclusive one. It includes your arm and your eyes and your chest and your breathing, and to even a point where you can just rest there for a moment and not breathe. Good. And then you release and bring your head back to the middle. And now place both hands on your chest, somewhere on the front part of your chest. So your elbows are more or less resting just where they are, but they're bent and your hands are resting somewhere in front of you. And now think about both elbows as if you want to pull the right elbow towards the right side of your chest and the left elbow towards the left side of your chest, as if you're holding something between the left arm and the right arm to the sides of the chest, and you're gripping that substance, that space gently. You're tightening that space gently. That's right, on both sides. Good. And even if the amount of tightening that you're creating is small, and it should be small, and gradually even smaller, make it so that the tightening process takes time, so that it takes a few long seconds to create, to engage those parts that you're tightening. So it would give you time to feel how your eyes get drawn in, how your attention gets pulled towards the tightening, and how your chest tightens with the exhalation. Maybe even your abdomen tightens and allow the air to move out of your lungs. Not too much, but just what is right to create that focusing in and that pulling, that inclusive pulling in, to then be able to maybe even rest there and not even breathe for a second or two. Good. And then, of course, you release, you breathe freely, you release all the tightening, you rest for a moment, and then you try again. But if you take enough time during each one of the tightenings and each one of the releasing, you might be doing one cycle per maybe 30 seconds. You can really take your time. Mhm. And the slower you do it, the better you will become in organizing the tightening to be a minimal one, a minimal tightening. It can even be a sub-minimal tightening in which you just think about the directions without even tightening or without any muscular exertion. Mhm. But the point is not so much for the muscular contraction as much as, in a way, recreating a pattern of tightening with an exhalation, with all the focus getting drawn into one area that is part of the mechanisms and the reflexes that we all have as a reaction to pain, in reaction to pain. But now we're trying to take those patterns and use them in an empowering way, not as a protective reaction, but actually as an empowering exercise or an empowering exploration. Excellent. Good. Bring your hands down, bring your feet standing, and slowly roll on to lie on your left side. And organize your knees comfortably bent one on top of the other, resting one on top of the other. And organize your side lying position in such a way that it would be easy for you to place your right hand on your right knee so that you can hold the front part of your right knee with your right hand. So your right hand comes from the top of the knee, comes from the ceiling onto the side of your knee to grab to grab a hold somewhere below your right knee in such a way that your arm can be as resting as possible. If you feel like you need to fold yourself, to curl yourself a little bit more into a ball, please feel free to do so. Bring your knees a little bit further up, bring your head a tiny bit forward so it would be easier for you to grab a hold of your knee. Now we're going to do a similar thing with the hand holding the knee. So first, just hear the whole instruction before you do. You're going to start pulling your knee with your arm a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit towards your chest, but you're not going to allow your knee to come towards your chest. So as you pull, you also block the pulling. So you do the thing and the opposite in the same time. You think of pulling your knee towards your chest, but you don't with the muscles of the leg. The leg resists the pulling of the arm. So all that would happen is this activation of your muscles, a tonification and a tightening of the muscles, again, gently, in a gentle way, a tightening of the muscles. And think that you want to bring your head towards your knee, that you're trying to fold yourself into a ball, but you're not allowing yourself to fold. So it's almost like this whole space between your face, the front of your chest, and your knee. You're trying to compress that space as if you're trying to condense the space or the air that is touching your face, front of chest, abdomen, thigh, and knee. But it's too thick to be compressed. So again, it's a very gentle activation of the muscles, but it has a very specific direction. Even though it's not creating movement, it's directed towards the center. Almost like, again, you're pulling yourself in as if you're withdrawing away from the environment, and your eyes and your inner gaze move towards that focal point of pulling yourself in, but nothing is moving. So you're pulling yourself in and resisting at the same time. What would we be called a co-contraction. Or a counter motivation. You have a motivation to pull in, to fold, but at the same time, you're resisting that motivation. So you're doing the thing and its opposite at the same time. Good. Now bring your arm down and rest for a moment. And again, this is very typical to the reflex responses in our body to pain. We contract to protect and guard, but a contraction that doesn't produce movement, meaning that while we contract, we also resist the contraction so it doesn't really move us. And that creates a tightening. That tightening can be around a specific joint, but usually when it's prolonged, persists for a longer duration of time, that tightening starts to spread and affect the entire self and our whole movement organization. Hold on to your right knee again with your right hand and just add in the exhalation so that you look for this gentle way to feel that you're pulling yourself in, your head down towards your knee up towards your chest, but you're resisting it at the same time, so nothing moves. From the outside, nobody would see that you're moving. Only if someone was to touch different muscles, they would feel, oh, they're contracting here and here and here, and the muscles are working in different places. That's right. But this time, try to time it with exhaling, allowing the air to come out of your lungs. Not too deeply. Don't exhale too much. You don't want to get your breathing mechanism distressed by over exhaling. And just feel if that drawing inwards with your eyes, with your attention, with the exhalation, with the lungs shrinking and getting drawn inwards, can you find the end of that pull and almost like rest in the end of that pull and rest in that tightening and maybe even hold your breath just for a second or two, but in a way, and not really holding the breath like, but almost just like allowing your breathing to rest at the end of the tightening. So it wouldn't be that that anxiety reflex of holding the breath, but it would be your own controlled, modulated exhalation with a gathering in of this movement pattern. Excellent. And bring your right arm down and rest for a moment. And now see if you can hold your left knee with your left hand, mirroring what you just did with your right hand on your right knee. That's right. So your knee will be resting on your hand and the back of your hand is on the floor. And also hold your right knee with your right hand. So you're holding both knees. That's right. And now very gently, you can start from your hands pulling your knees just so that the direction is clear. But the work itself and the tightening can start from the hands and the arms, but you actually want to feel the generalized pulling in and tightening that is occurring when you try to fold yourself and resist the folding at the same time. Almost like you're trying to compress yourself without any success because you're not moving anywhere. So you even try to pull your head a little bit down, but you resist your own pulling. And you exhale so that your ribs get pulled inwards. You might feel your abdominal muscles tightening and even your back muscles tightening. Again, this little bit of co-contraction. And again, the hands are not the focal point. They're just an easy way to start to give a clear direction for you to understand where you're moving towards or what is the pattern that you're trying to engage. But actually, you want to feel the gentle tightening of the musculature, mostly in the trunk, in the chest, in your pelvic area, and almost like it's wrapping your structure, giving you a more defined sensation of where your trunk is, as if someone was to roll you inside a blanket or hug you in these central areas of the body with this gentle sort of tightness. So with your muscles, you're hugging yourself a little bit. And then notice if you can find that gentle hug, that gentle tightening with the exhalation, that you can actually rest there in that hugging position for a second or two without even breathing. That almost your breathing has paused. Your breathing can rest at the end of the exhalation. That's right. Excellent. Bring your arms down, roll back onto your back, and rest for a moment. So one of the struggles that I had around painful areas that were painful chronically, meaning always painful for years, is that I was trying to fight the tightness that I was feeling around those areas. That the rigidity, the sensation of immobility, the sensation of those areas being stuck was something that I was trying to work against, thinking that I need to soften the muscles or relax the muscles. But in fact, sometimes those practices were making the pain even worse. They were increasing the discomfort. They were increasing the internal irritation from the pain until I realized that actually these reflexive mechanisms of tightening are rooted in the biology, in the physiology of the body. And I should try to somehow take advantage of them instead of trying to fight them. Instead of trying to cut them off, I need to somehow use those neural circuits that are already working inside my brain, inside my body, somehow to my advantage. And one of the things that I found that by controlled tightening, by practicing a controlled tightening that becomes more and more gentle over time, more and more detailed, I was actually creating a lot of space and quietness and focus within the body, within the perception of my body, inside my brain. Come and lie on your right side and organize yourself so that you can have your left hand resting on your left elbow. That's right. And you can even just hold your elbow and imagine the process. You don't really need to muscularly engage yourself. Or you can just listen to the instruction, think about the pattern, and you might find that the muscles are reacting, will react to the thinking about the pattern without even you trying to pull intentionally, which is really a part of the basis of these tightening mechanisms that happen in an uncontrolled subconscious way. So hold your knee and think of folding yourself, folding your knee, pulling your knee a little bit towards your chest, as if you would want to decrease the distance between your knee and your chest, but at the same time resisting that movement. Mhm. It might be easier for you if you think about folding your chest down towards your knee, folding your head down towards your knee, but at the same time resisting that folding. Mhm. It might be easier for you if you first listen to your breathing and monitor when do you start exhaling, and just do that a few times. Just find when do you start the exhalation? When does the air start exiting your lungs? And in that state, your lungs shrink, the volume of your chest and your abdomen becomes smaller, and you want to catch a ride on that shrinking movement, thinking that, oh, you're going to fold your entire self. And you do try to fold your entire self, but you resist yourself at the same time. You try to pull yourself towards the folding, and at the same time, you resist. So it creates, again, this tightening, almost like a little bit of a compression. And if you don't find it, or if you feel that it's disorganized, that's perfectly fine. This is not a simple movement pattern to create intentionally. And not only is it not simple, the co-contraction might even provoke the sensation of unpleasantness or of some sort of anxiety or irritation, or like a noise inside the body. And that would mean that, oh, you're touching just on those bodily patterns of how we respond to stress, anxiety, noise, and even pain. But now you try to take that pattern and transform it into something very gentle, something that almost has even a soothing quality from the co-contraction being very minimal but organized. Again, it might take time to find that it's becoming more and more organized. But that's why you take your time and you don't do a lot of movements, and you can rest and think about it when you rest, and feel which parts of yourself are not involved, which parts of the body are you not sensing, or are you not paying attention to, neglecting in a way. Which areas of yourself can you bring in to this drawing of yourself in while resisting yourself? Excellent. Bring your arm down and rest for a moment. And organize your right hand underneath your right knee, and also with your left hand on your left knee. So you're holding both knees, and it's as if you're going to pull yourself to curl yourself in like a ball. And you start the pulling, but you resist at the same time. You start the pulling and you resist at the same time, and you keep at it for a few long seconds. You pull and resist, and you don't let go. And you modulate the amount of force, making it more and more gentle until you can feel that even though you didn't curl up like a ball, this co-contraction of the muscles almost like folds your body, wraps your body to give you a fuller sensation of your entire body as one thing. Mhm. Good. Because again, as biological as these co-contractions might be and protective as they may be, happening unconsciously for a prolonged period of time, it makes distortions in the body image, and it creates a sensation of parts of the body being disconnected from each other. The ability of the body to function in harmony becomes distorted, non-existent almost. So now you're using that mechanism of tightening, but you're looking for harmony within the tightening. You're looking for a more sense of organization, for a refinement of the contraction. That's right. Excellent. And slowly come lie again on your back and rest for a moment. And bring both feet standing and hold just your left hand up in the air. Your elbow is on the floor. Your left elbow is resting on the floor, and your left hand is up in the air. And orient your left palm more or less towards your right thigh, more or less, so that the soft part of your hand is facing your right thigh. So the palm is oriented down and to the right. That's right. In a soft, you can have your fingers a little bit separated, hold your hand in a very simple sort of way. Good. And now think of again tightening a little bit your left arm towards your chest, as if there's something between your left elbow and your ribs. Tightening your left side, the left side of your chest. Tightening your left forearm towards the center of your body, as if you're pushing something with your left forearm towards the center of your abdomen, but of course nothing is moving. Pushing your left hand a little bit towards your right thigh. Hmm? Good. Again, very gently. Take a few long few seconds to create each one of these tightenings and each one of those releasing of the tightenings. Try to time it with the exhalation. So as you tighten, you exhale, and then maybe you even rest in the tightened position and allow your breathing to rest. So you don't breathe for a second or two. You take this pause at the end of the tightening. Excellent. Good. Now we'll make it more challenging. Okay, but it's in the head and in the body, but we'll make it a little bit more challenging. So as you compress your left hand towards the center, your left hand towards your thigh, think of pulling your right knee and your right thigh towards your left hand, as if you were to compress something with your right leg towards your left hand and your left hand towards your right leg. So it would mean that you're trying to lift your right foot from the floor, but you're resisting it at the same time. Okay, so again, it's a lot to think about. You have to do less and think more, and to find the connection within the body, not from activating the muscles forcefully, but from somehow creating a better map of where the body parts are, just from thinking about these directions of tightening and compressing. It's not a simple thing to do. I know it's not. It's not simple. But what you'll feel if you think about your leg, pulling your leg towards your center, your abdomen becomes activated as well. And then you might feel, oh, this is a better place to hold my breath. The tightening of the abdomen, the overall engagement of this leg with the arm. As you exhale, you might find, that's the place where I'm stopping the breath. And just make it so that it's your decision, that you drive your exhalation to that point of tightening where you pause your breathing for a second or 2.5 seconds. That's right. And your eyes get drawn in towards that center. Everything gets drawn in. Your eyes and your gaze, your hand, your elbow, your chest, your leg coming from the other diagonal. You pull it in towards the center until you feel, oh, it condensed my lungs and my breathing. Oh, that's a good place to rest and not breathe. And then you let it go. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Good. And bring your arm down and rest. So if you had the unfortunate experience of dealing with persistent pain and pain that doesn't stay constant and predictable all the time, but sometimes jumps unexpectedly, you've probably experienced how your breathing becomes disturbed and how sometimes you can't even breathe or you have difficulty breathing from the pain. So then one of the strategies would be not to try to fight it and not to try to breathe differently or more deeply or trying to inhibit that reflex response of your breathing, but rather to control it intentionally, to do what the breathing mechanism is doing, to do what the reflex response is doing consciously. So bring both feet standing again. Hold your right hand in front of you so that your right palm is oriented towards your left thigh. And try to think of compressing your right arm towards your center, elbow towards the chest, shoulder into your chest, right hand a little bit towards your abdomen, and your left leg in or towards your right hand, as if you were to lift your left knee towards your right hand, but you stop yourself. Good. Now again, how do you do it? How do you organize it so this makes sense? I have no idea. There's no way for me to know, nor to know how to describe it. That is where your intelligent brain kicks in trying to organize this pattern. Now, is this pattern mimicking exactly the reflexive responses that you habitually have to pain? I wouldn't know. But generally speaking, they are addressing what? The tightening, the guarding, the protective responses that we all have to sensing pain. We all do. For each one, it might manifest a little differently, but we all have protective responses that pull us inwards, that draw us away from the environment. And we all have protective reflexes that disturb the breathing. Our breathing reacts to pain. Those are very general, archetypical responses to pain, whether it's acute or chronic. So then you try to find how to create something that mimics rigidifying, pulling in towards the center that doesn't really create movement. It creates a tightening, almost like a little bit of a freezing, but it has a direction to it. As you exhale, and even exhale to the point where you stop breathing for a second or two, but in a way that in the body actually feels empowering. That how the muscles come together, how your thinking comes together with your eyes and your breathing and your legs and your arm feels good. Feels like you're putting something in place. Excellent. Bring your arm down and rest for a moment. Bring both hands in front of you again with the elbows on the floor. And again, tighten both arms towards your chest. Think of both hands compressing a little bit towards the center, towards somewhere in front of your abdomen. So again, your arms are like this open frame as you exhale. That's right. Now have both feet standing and think of pulling both legs towards your hands at the same time, as if you're going to try to pull the knees up towards your chest, but you're not. But almost like this space, the air that is touching your hands, the front of your chest, your abdomen, your thighs, almost like you're trying to compress that space, but you're not. It's too thick to be compressed, but almost like you're holding it tight. All that air between your thighs and your chest, between your hands, on your chest, on your abdomen, almost like you're holding all that air tight. But in a good way that also informs you of where your body actually is. Where are your elbows? Where are your ribs? Where is your back? That the tightening almost wraps you from the inside. Not almost. The muscles actually do wrap all the bones from the inside. They wrap the chest from the outside of the chest, from the inside. They wrap the abdomen from the outside of the abdomen. So you're tightening all those wraps that are inside of you to give you a more concentrated feeling of yourself. Excellent. And now bring your arms down, stretch out your legs, and just feel your body weight, your body presence again on the floor, the weight of your feet, the weight of your legs. Notice the position of your pelvis, the contact of your back with the floor. You might feel that some of the tightening is still working inside of you, almost like there's a residual activation of the muscles. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to relax. Actually sense it and use it to feel, where are you? Where are those body parts? That muscular activation is giving you information about you in your arms, in your chest, in your shoulders. You might feel the opposite. You might feel that after tightening so many times, everything is much more relaxed. That's also great. But if it's not, or if some parts feel like there's muscular tightness or activation, use it. See how you can actually connect to that energy. It is internal energy of your brain activating something that tells the muscles to tighten. That is actually a power source for you, or could be a power source for you. Good. And now just listen to your breathing. Listen to your breathing. Bring your arms again into that open frame position to just feel where in your chest and in your abdomen, where is it in your trunk that you feel the movement of the expansion and the shrinking? And see if you can use the sensation of your hands as a frame to help you localize where that movement in your trunk is. Is it closer to your left hand or closer to your right hand? So your hands are almost like mapping, helping you to map where is your trunk and where is the movement of the expansion and the deflation of your lungs. Excellent. Bring your arms down and slowly roll up through one side and come to sitting. And from there, take your time. If you need a moment to rest in sitting, even more than a moment, or if you feel like you want to keep lying on the floor, you're free to do that too. But if and when you come up to standing, take a moment to just feel your general presence in the body when you stand. And then if you feel like walking around, sometimes the effect of the lesson comes a little bit after the lesson, but just walk around a little bit and notice your general sense of yourself. Great. And we will keep exploring how to use these different patterns of movements, of bodily reactions that are in all of us, inside all of us, including the breathing, including the use of the eyes, including the tonification of the muscles, and in movement throughout the next classes that we'll have. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you next class next week.